AMS, trayendo de todo a tu casa. Yes.
Tonight with all of you, one more time, for those of you that this is your first time, welcome. And on behalf of our members, I really want to thank all of you for contributing. This is our largest fundraiser of the year, and it makes our work possible. So thank you so much. And I also want to take a moment to recognize our extremely hardworking Voces de la Frontera staff and the volunteers that put together this gala, from the artwork to the silent auction to the raffle donations. Could you please stand and be recognized? I also wanted to take a moment to recognize the elected officials in attendance. So what I wanted to do is that people could hold their applause at the end, and then we can give them a final round of applause. Alderman Jose Perez, I don't know if you can stand too. Okay. County Supervisor Marina Dimitrovich. County Supervisor Peggy Romo West. County Supervisor Supreme Moore Omokunde. MPS School Board Member Tatiana Joseph. And MPS School Board Member Larry Miller, State Assemblyman Evan Boyke, Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Pedro Colon, Wisconsin Supreme Court candidate and Milwaukee County Circuit Court Judge Joe Donald, Circuit Court candidate Gene Keys, Circuit Court candidate Gwen Connolly. Of course, we have also State Assembly person Jocasta Samaripan, from the State Assembly Mandela Barnes, and from the State Senate Chris Larson, who's also running candidate for County Executive Office. And last but not least, from the U.S. Congress, Congresswoman Gwen Moore, and of course our keynote speaker tonight. This year's gala theme is Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, and the tradition is based on a mix of Aztec and Christian traditions in which the deceased come home to visit their relatives. So tonight we honor and receive the spirits of the deceased social justice leaders from our state and around the world. At each of your tables is a brief bio and a photo of one of those leaders. We take this evening to remember their legacy and others, as a reminder that it remains our duty to continue the struggle for justice. We also have an altar over on that side that is dedicated to them and to the undocumented immigrants, working people who did not make it to the United States or around the world. And it's also a place at the end where you can add the names of someone who has inspired your commitment to justice. And you can read about the history and the tradition in the program booklet. Now, we want to give a warm welcome to Escamilla Entertainment that connects us with the indigenous roots of this tradition, the Aztec dancers.
Wow. Thank you for that beautiful performance that honors this tradition and its indigenous roots. So ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the stage one of the fiercest champions for working people here in Wisconsin, the Honorable Congresswoman Gwen Moore.
Good evening! Voces de fronteras, Dia de Muertos. A day to honor the dead and to work like hell for the living. I tell you, Voces is celebrating so many accomplishments. This grassroots organization, it works really, really hard. So we're really happy. I'm really happy to join all of you in supporting the work that they do. There are so many people who are living in the shadows that they support on a daily basis, and it is only right for us to come out here tonight to make sure that we shine a light on the wonderful work that they do. Let's give a hand for Christine Newman Ortiz. You all are in for a real treat tonight. You all may know my colleague from the suburb of Milwaukee, right down the road in Chicago. As a very fierce advocate for immigration. You know, when I first got to Congress and the Democrats took over the majority, I really saw this young man do his thing. Luis was literally a crusader for a comprehensive immigration reform package. Many of you may not realize, right? That he has been instrumental in supporting and organizing and writing one of the key features of a comprehensive immigration reform bill, and that would be the DREAM Act. A long time ago, one of the earliest versions of the DREAM Act. And he was very instrumental in getting a version of the DREAM Act that was sponsored then by then Congressman Berman in December of 2010. And it made it through the House, and it was failed to be taken up in the Senate. And it was a severe disappointment. But do you think that that stopped Luis Gutierrez? No, he kept right on fighting. And that DREAM Act became a framework for the DREAM Act that was signed by executive action by the president. And in 2012, the president announced DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. You've seen Luis on TV sweating the president because he didn't stop there. And even though 1 million requests were approved for DACA under this provision, Luis kept persisting, saying that it wasn't enough, and the president extended DACA and implemented the Deferred Action for Parents under executive order. And boy, I'm telling you, it has made a whole lot of people mad. Let me tell you, in the face of this adversity, my friend Luis is a testament to the real reality that dreams can and do come true. And he certainly has his finger on the pulse of the future. Now I have to tell you a little story. At one point, Luis was growing weary of traveling back and forth to DC, and he started looking at the mayoralty in Chicago. And having been an alderman in Chicago and being the dean of the Illinois delegation, Luis had a pretty good reputation. And he was thinking about going back home to Chicago. And I told him, I said, look, Luis, you ain't going nowhere. You're not leaving me with this big old problem of immigration. You're going to keep your butt right here until we get this done. Yeah. That's right. Luis is supporting supported me in every single one of my campaigns for Congress, so in case y'all don't like it, Luis is responsible for helping me bring me to the party. And I'm sure he's got a couple of stories to tell you about that. He is not a straight shut up, Luis, you better not. He's no stranger to Milwaukee. As a matter of fact, in the 1990s, he came and met a young man, a young intern, and encouraged him to run and told him, I expect to see your success in elective office. That young intern is now an old man, Alderman Jose Perez, who's here this evening. Damas y caballeros, es un placer presentarles a mi buen amigo y colega representative, you be proud of me, Luis Gutierrez.
It's a pleasure to be here tonight. Where's Christine? There you go. Hard-working woman. Let's give her another round of applause. Elected officials, I want to give you my warmest greeting. And obviously, Wentmore is very special. Not only to you, but I think to the country. She brings such an energy and such a focus. And there's a lot said this week about representatives to the House of Representatives from Wisconsin. Both of them are friends of mine. But one of them, Wentmore, is persistent and consistent in her demand for justice. ¿Viste el español de Wentmore? And don't worry, when I'm not going to tell them about the Archbishop, the Catholic Archbishop. He's already complaining. Pero me gustas, le digo al artista. Me gustas mucho, le digo. But you know what? We worked it all out. It's really good to be in your town, going with you. Thank you for all your commitment and your dedication to justice and to fairness and to everybody in this country. It's a pleasure to be here in the hometown of Milwaukee, Wisconsin with you once again. And I have to say to voces, wow, I think the first time we were in the basement of a church, maybe 10 years ago. It's been a while. It's like I make regular trips up to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, at the invitation of voces. And I'm always excited to come here because I get to hear the stories of how it is you challenge day in and day out this society to do better for the people of Milwaukee. So when you invited me up here, I said yes. I said yes because I have to be responding to the good work and the commitment that you've made to the city of Milwaukee, to the state of Wisconsin, and to our nation. Now look, some people are a bit disillusioned. Some people say they're tired. Some people say they're tired, they're disillusioned, and they no longer want to stay in the fight that we're not going to win. Well, that's exactly what our enemies and our foes want us to do. They want us to be tired, they want us to get disillusioned, they want us to lose our fire that we have in our bellies for freedom and for justice, and particularly for the undocumented community, particularly for the immigrant community, that we are still striving to bring into parity with all other workers. And so I would simply say to all of you, thank you for maintaining your commitment here at voces. It is very important because the undocumented, they don't have any other choice. And if we don't stand up and we don't speak up, and we don't fight for them, then I think we will have missed a very valuable moment in our lives. Now, what do I think is going to happen? I'll tell you what's going to happen. I went to 5 high schools in the last month in my district. So you have about 2,000 students. First question asked at each and every one. You do the Q&A, kind of tell them a little bit about the Constitution, a little bit what you do, a little biography, 5-6 minutes. And then I go to the Q&A and I let the students begin and we take the hour from there. What are you going to do about Donald Trump? They ask. Is it true that he's going to come through our neighborhood and round up our moms and our dads? Is it true that my American citizenship is at risk because the 14th Amendment to the Constitution is no longer going to be standing in my defense of my American citizenship? They ask these questions and a lot of others, and they say, what are you going to do? You know, I tell them what I'm going to do, but more importantly, I ask them, what are you going to do? Are you going to register to vote, and are you going to fight? And every hand goes up. I have to tell you something. Here's what I've learned. Donald Trump is a Latino youth voter registration machine. When I look at those 2,000 students, maybe he doesn't know, but I know. 93% of all Latinos in the United States of America that are 18 or younger are American citizens. 93%. So that means in those classrooms that I was in, those 17 and 18-year-olds are going to be committed and dedicated to doing one thing. They're going to stand up for people in their neighborhood. They're going to stand up for their moms and their dads. They're going to stand up for themselves. Because Latinos understand one thing. When Donald Trump says that Mexicans are murderers, rapists, and drug dealers, we know that he's talking about Puerto Ricans. We know he's talking about Colombians. We know that he's talking about Guatemalans. We know that he's talking about everybody of Hispanic descent. We know that clearly. That is their code word of simply saying Mexicans and you think. And here's going to be our response. Our response is going to be as a community of Latinos, de hispanoparlante aquí en este país. And we're going to respond together. My mom and dad came to this country in 1952 from Puerto Rico. Now, Puerto Rico has been part of the United States of America since 1898. But more importantly, Puerto Ricans have been citizens of the United States since 1917. So when my mom and dad came here in 1952, they came as citizens of the United States. Now, they didn't speak a lick of English. They didn't have a coat. They didn't understand what they were going to confront, but they knew that on the island of Puerto Rico, there was nothing for them. And here's what they said about Puerto Ricans in 1952 when my mom and dad came. If you picked up a newspaper in New York City, it was almost as though there was a panic throughout the city. Look, when hundreds of thousands of Puerto Ricans like my mom and dad arrived in the United States, there wasn't a welcome mat and a banner that says, what a great idea, happy you all arrived. They were accused of simply coming here to get on welfare. They were accused of coming here as a criminal element, endangering the rest of American society. They were said to be bringing tropical diseases from the island of Puerto Rico and infecting the population of New York and other metropolitan areas. That's what they said about my mom and my dad. And so what I want to say to all of you tonight, maybe there wasn't anybody in the Congress of the United States to stand up for my mom and my dad, but they raised me to stand up for people who are subjected to the same kind of bigotry, hatred that they were subjected to. And I'm going to do that in the Congress of the United States. And so, apparently the folks in Saturday Night Live don't know any better. Now I got to tell you something. I'm for freedom of speech, but I'm not for tolerating bigotry and hatred and prejudice and allowing it. And so, one Lauren Michaels, a Canadian immigrant to the United States of America, And I simply say to him, you're the executive producer, we all know why they're inviting him. They got about 5 million viewers. So they're trying to see if they can get more viewers on Saturday Night Live. But to bring somebody as detestable as him, and it's not like they're doing a cameo, right? No, he's going to be what? He's going to be the host. You know, when somebody's a host, you're basically saying that you're branding your program with them. Now, what's astonishing about all of this is that NBC, Universal, Comcast, back in July, severed all ties with Donald Trump. They said that he did not represent the values that they want to uphold in America. And yet they invite him today. And so, we know that there are hundreds of thousands of people across America demanding that NBC, Universal, and Comcast do the right thing and rescind that invitation. You know, a lot of people should understand something. There should be a call to the messages. When I say to Laura Michaels, if he had said it about gay people, would you invite him on Saturday Night Live? Now, if he had said it about black people, would you invite him on Saturday Night Live? If he were Canadian like you, would you invite him on Saturday Night Live? Well, in America, we're going to make sure that we're all in it together, and you can't say about Mexicans what he said and be on Saturday Night Live without us raising our voice. So we're going to continue to fight, and we're going to continue to organize. Here's another element that we're going to get involved in, and I know that I want to work with voces on this. Look, there are 8.8 million permanent residents of the United States of America who today can become citizens of this country. 8.8 million. 6 million of them are of Mexican descent. 6 million are of Mexican, and they all can get ready today. And so what I'm going to do from here until next November is I'm going to register every Latino that needs to get registered to vote. And I'm going to make sure that everyone, whether you're from Poland or Ireland, whether you're from India or Mexico, that you too take that step to American citizenship. The best way to counteract bigotry is to register to vote and make sure that that vote is counted on election day. I think a very clear and definitive role in getting that done. So, I want to say to everybody here, it's going to be a very, very, very short night next November on election day. Don't hire the babysitter for late into the night. You're going to be home very, very early. Because you see, the road to the White House is through the barrios of the cities of this country. Y ustedes lo saben. Nosotros no vamos a permitir que este odio, que esta discriminación y que estas palabras se queden sin nuestra respuesta el día de las elecciones. Seamos claros, cuando él acusa a mexicanos de ser narcotraficantes, de gente que mata, gente que vienen aquí a hacer daño, él está hablando de mí como puertorriqueño, del colombiano, del nicaragüense, de todos los que hablamos español y venimos de Latinoamérica. Y con una sola comunidad nosotros vamos a responder. Here's the other thing. There's a new emerging coalition. You see it. Who makes up that coalition? Well, I see it. When you got a clerk in a state that refuses to give two men their certificate so that they can get married, and you stand up, here's what happens. You have members of the gay and lesbian community organizing and registering to vote. When you say that you are going to defund Planned Parenthood, everybody knows it's really not about abortion. It's really about a woman's right to determine her future. It's really about a woman's right to define her reproductive system. And I have to share with everybody here tonight, we have a lot of fighting to do, because we've opened up the door, right? So that our friends and our neighbors of the gay and lesbian community can participate fully in the society. There are those who want to say that. And we've guaranteed advances for women in this country. And there are those who want to shut those doors down. And we know that there are people who believe que esta madre tierra nuestra hay que salvaguardarla en contra de los daños, porque es patrimonio de todos los seres humanos. And we know that there are people who want to turn the clock back. We're not going to allow them to turn the clock back on our environment, on the rights of workers to work and to organize collectively for their rights in the country. I'm going to go back to my mom. Hundreds of thousands of women in Puerto Rico during the 1950s, it was almost a genocidal thing, were all what? Sterilized. That's the way it was done. That was women's right, the right to sterilization. You know, I have two beautiful daughters. One is 37, the other is 26. My wife got to go to college, got to earn a degree, and got to fulfill her life fully because she could manage and she could dictate when it was she and I were going to have children. That is something that has been hard fought for in this country. And my daughters, I raised them. I gave them the best sense of, how would I say this? I said, here are values that I want to instill in you, that I want to inculcate in you. Here are ideals that I think you should fight for. And I said to them, be proud, be independent, be confident. And I'm not going to allow the Congress of the United States and some old men to determine the future of my daughters. And so, when you look at that coalition of African Americans, of immigrants from all over the world, of our gay and lesbian brothers, of those who believe in the environment and want to take care of our Mother Earth, think about that. I'm going to tell you, here's my prediction. That coalition is going to vote early next November of 2016. And it's going to vote early, and it's going to determine the future of this nation. The Republican Party has made a decision that it wants to be a party of municipalities, of counties, of states. It doesn't want to be a national party anymore. And it will not be a national party until it stops threatening the rights of women, of gays, of lesbians in this country. Until it stops damaging the rights of our immigrant community and spoiling our earth and doesn't allow men and women. You know, Gwen and I, we earn $174,000 a year as members of Congress. It's a shame that the Congress of the United States continues to keep the minimum wage at $7.40 an hour. That's what a member of Congress about that. You multiply that by hour by 40 weeks, that's what a member of Congress earns in a month. It is time that in this country, we no longer strive for minimum wage, but a living wage that is at least $15 an hour. And I know that you were here focused, lifting up your voices and organizing for men and women in the labor movement. I'm going to end with just a little comment about kind of why it is I focus so much on the newcomer. I was born in Chicago in 1953, when things were still separate but according to the rules, equal. We hadn't passed the Voting Rights Act or a Civil Rights Act. It would be 10 years later before we attempted to do one of them. And that's the city that I grew up in. And I have to tell you, my mom and dad, all they did was talk about going back to Puerto Rico. That's all they talked about every day. Like, I want to go snow a lot, my mom won't go. Somebody break into our apartment, the rice and the sugar bowls all over the place, I want to go back to Puerto Rico. Yeah, that's my mom. It was like everything, be gangbangers on the corner, I want to go back to Puerto Rico. She want to go back to her country, to her fatherland, right? That's what I heard. Well, in 1969, my parents finally realized their dream. And they hauled me back with them. Now, I lived in a bilingual household. You know what that means, right? They spoke only Spanish, and I spoke only English. They understood my English, I understood their Spanish, and we got along famously. And I still remember on the airplane, on Pan Am. Remember that was an airplane? Oh, if you know Pan Am, you're old. Like me. Pan Am. And they had Pan Am Airlines. So we got on Pan Am. I loved it. First time I was ever on an airplane. And you know what? They give you all the soda you wanted to drink, right? And as a 15-year-old, that was a pretty good deal. Of course, they were spreading around cancer because they give you these little packets with about 3 cigarettes in it. And they gave you as many of them as you wanted to smoke. So my dad smoked all the free cigarettes and I drank all the free Coca-Cola all the way up. We were pretty happy when we got there. I got out the airplane and it was a new heat. A tropical heat that I'd never felt before because I'd never been out city of Chicago. So I turned around to my dad in English and I said, Mira, papi, can you buy me a Coca-Cola? I'm thirsty. And he looked at me and he said, Hijo, estamos en Puerto Rico, aquí se habla español. So my son, we're in Puerto Rico, you speak Spanish here. And I kind of like, 15 years, you guys are going to tell me, now you're letting me in, I have to learn the language. I don't know. And then, I'm not complaining about my mom and dad. It's just the way they were. They had rules and you did what they... There were no conversations at the dinner table. This wasn't Father Knows Best or Leave This to Beaver. It was kind of like, he's the head of the household and he says, we're going to Puerto Rico, you're going to learn. And I knew I was in for a big awakening. So I went to school, I went and I registered. I was a sophomore in high school. And I went to register, and the teacher takes the card that you fill out in your homeroom. And he says, ¿Y cómo tú te llamas? And just, what is your name? And I thought, is it Gutierrez, Gutierrez, Gutierrez? Because the teachers changed it every year. And I really didn't mind that one. So I said, well, let me give it my best shot here. And I said, Luis Gutierrez. And of course, the whole classroom laughed. Not in Puerto Rico, where everybody only speaks Spanish, just like my mom and dad, right? I'm like, I'm in the United States of America, according to them, but everybody only speaks Spanish. All right, I'll figure this out. So everybody started laughing. Here's what he said to me. He said, well, let me just tell you something. You can't register for classes in Puerto Rico. I don't know what it's like out there in the United States of America, but in Puerto Rico, you have to know your complete name if you're going to be a sophomore in high school. He said, don't you have a mother? And I thought to myself, I've been grown up, Not like, Dr. Carson, because he was stabbing me. I didn't stab him. This week, Dr. Carson, he's like, he's stabbing and beating people up. He said that I didn't do that. But I grew up in el barrio. He made fun of people's sisters, lots of things, but never someone's mother. I got literally raped. My mother had to do with all of it. Well, in Latin America, everybody's full name, right, is your father's and your mother's maiden name. I didn't know that. My parents never prepared me for anything, right? And there were no bilingual, classroom settings. Okay, it was like, you're in the same classroom with everybody else. So I said to myself, okay, so he sent me home. I went home crying. And I asked my mom, got home crying, and my mom embraced me like mothers know how to do. And she said, ay, mi hijo, vamos a aprender tu nombre. I'm 15 years old, and I'm in for a pretty big, revelation, right? My name. I thought I knew it. Louis. Okay, and I learned a new way to say my name for the first time. So for 9 years, including kindergarten, none of the teachers ever pronounced it this way. None of them. So my mom was not going to be my next teacher. And she said, tu nombre es Luis Vicente.
Oh my God.
Yo dije, God, I Luis Vicente. I thought that was a pretty good start, right, to my new name. Entonces me dice, Luis Vicente Gutierrez Olmedo. Olmedo, that's new. That's my mother's maiden name. And so I said it. And for the Latinos in the room, and maybe los gringos también, I kept repeating it. Because what do adolescents do when they're 15? They're always looking in the mirror, right? One of the most important things in the whole house, the mirror. So I went to the mirror and I repeated it. Luis Vicente Gutierrez Olmedo. And I thought to myself, that's a great name. Luis Vicente Gutierrez Olmedo, abogado y licenciado. Luis Vicente Gutierrez Olmedo presenta su gala. So I just kept going, right? Médico cirujano Luis Vicente Gutierrez Olmedo. So I went all night thinking, this is a good name. This might lead to better things in my life. And the next day I go back to the classroom. I couldn't wait because I had learned something so clearly fundamental in my life, my name. And I went and there was this really pretty girl in the corner. And I kind of walked up to her and I said, hola. Because now I'm feeling really, really good, right? Hola, mi nombre es Luis Vicente Gutierrez Olmedo. ¿Y cómo tú te llamas? Right? That's pretty, right? Harmless. And what's your name? Frantically hurt like this. Mister. That's what they call the teachers in Puerto Rico, Mister. It's part of some legacy that was left in Puerto Rico when the American government wanted everybody to forget Spanish and learn English. Failed miserably. And Mister. Sí, señorita, ¿qué quieres? Yes, young lady, what would you like? El gringo me está molestando. And so you say, Luis, why did you come to Milwaukee to tell us that story? I'm going to tell you why. Everyone else in the classroom laughed too when she said that. I have to tell you, I never felt so insignificant. I never felt so small, so humiliated. Kind of like my humanity was drained in their laughter. I just wanted to disappear. I never felt such a sharp pain of humiliation as I did in that moment. You know, I was a stranger in my own land. My parents had fought for 15 years so we could go back. In Chicago, everywhere I went, I was Puerto Rican. I was too Puerto Rican to be American. And in Puerto Rico, I was now too American to be Puerto Rican. And so, I understand fundamentally what it is to be treated as an outsider, both because I grew up before the Voting Rights and Civil Rights Act. I know what that's like. I know what it's like to go back home, to see people who look like me, and yet they reject me. Every day in America, there are people who come here, and they come here from Ireland, they come here from India, they come here from Jamaica, they come here from Africa, they come here from Mexico, they come from the Philippines, they come from all over the world. And they're just like me when I was 15 years old. Maybe they don't understand the mores and the language and the customs, and they look a little strange. But what they don't need is somebody to scoff at them and laugh at them and ridicule them. What they need is what I got. Because when the laughter stopped, some of my classmates extended a warm, helping hand to me. And that's really what voces is all about. It's fighting those people who are marginalized, right? Kind of ridiculed and set aside, who haven't really found themselves completely in our new American society. But you're here to make sure that you extend to them the welcome, warm hand that I received when I was in San Sebastian. It's been an incredible road for me since then. My dad, as I was writing my memoir, I went to go interview him. And he died about a year before it was published. And I included it in the memoir. He said, you know, Luis, you complained so much. You were so angry, week in and week out, month in and month out, because I brought you to Puerto Rico. I still remember, the girls wouldn't talk to you. You didn't understand the language. No one liked you. You almost hated me for bringing you to this place. And then he said to me, you wouldn't be the man that you are, and you wouldn't have the commitment that you do to social justice today and been successful as you've been in public service had I not brought you here. My dad was absolutely pains me today to see what's going on, but I have this wonderful, wonderful feeling. My mom and dad, I went to high school the other day, Roberto Clemente High School, one of the high schools I taught at, and it was wonderful to see the students there. And I told them, look, I want to say thank you, because the students asked me, what are you thankful for? And I told them I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that I have a voice in the Congress of the United States. And I'm thankful to all the black men and women who marched and were murdered and lynched and who had their churches burned down so that we can have voting rights and civil rights act. Without that, I wouldn't have the voice that I have today in the Congress of the United States. And I'm going to make sure, as I know that everybody here that works as voces, right? That everybody that's come before us, that sacrificed so much to make fairness and justice and equality something we can all obtain in this country and around the world, all of those who have contributed and sacrificed so much, we're going to sacrifice it too. We're going to make a commitment too. And because of that, we are also going to win. So yes, the elections are going to be really early next November 2016. I don't know if it's Hillary or Bernie. Whichever one, I'm happy. Thank you very much.